The artificial intelligence is a short-term application that's going to be deployed, and it's going to have a lasting impact on our industry. While the issue of computing itself is going to be a challenge. Yeah. If you think about what is the most important, fastest growing data segment in today's world based on Cisco's global Cisco vision analysis, it's machine to machine communication. And the communications are going to be at the machine level. They're going to be, and I think that's going to create an explosion of further communications project that's taking place in Malaysia. Okay, Malaysia, you think of a country of the size of Malaysia, and they're actually looking to generate companies are looking to build data centers that require more electricity, more power than the whole country. For us, the telecom industry, we're the movers of massive data. Okay, we're the movers of information. Right? And I think we are also going through our own transformation as an industry.
Welcome, future forward thinkers, to the Tech Foresight podcast. I am Diana Daniels, your host and an entrepreneur with a passion for bridging gaps in telecommunications, finance, and digital inclusion. We're bringing your insights from the world's most innovative minds in the telecommunications and technology. We are here to challenge the norms, explore the uncharted territory, and bring you the latest trends that are not just changing the game, but also rewriting the rules. And today is very special because we have with us Luis Fiallo, a veteran in the telecom industry with over 25 years of leadership experience working at Fortune 500 companies, at entrepreneurial early-stage technology-based firms. And Luis has also served in the government as he was appointed by the President of the United States to the President's Information Technology Advisory Committee, the PITAC, and by the government of Virginia in the Commonwealth Broadband Roundtable. Luis currently is serving as Vice President of China Telecom in the Americas, overseeing the company overall mission of connecting the world and delivering superior telecommunication services. Luis, welcome to the Tech Foresight podcast.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Listen, as we stand already 2024, 5G technology is becoming ubiquitous, yet its full potential seems untapped. How do you see 5G evolving in the immediate future, and what novel applications do you anticipate will emerge from this widespread adoption?
Yeah, no, so that's a great question to start off with. But, to me, I think in many ways 5G is maturing. Okay, and I think the part of the challenge has been that the lack of government regulations to allow 5G to happen on a ubiquitous basis around the world. So what you've seen is the emergence of private 5G, which is really taking the more visible view of the world. People pay attention to private 5G applications because it's very specific, but that's also limited to a specific number of countries. So what I see the 5G is now you're starting to see trials of where you're going to be able to use 5G technology, but in a way that it's open to the enterprise to be able to take parts of that spectrum to use for their own use. Because what the carriers are seeing, 5G carriers in the future are seeing, is that it's going to be either private 5G or they're going to use my 5G network sliced up to be able to do enterprise applications. So I think that's the beginning. And then you layer on the different technologies that we're seeing emerge or actually being deployed. That will actually change the way 5G is finally being used and adopted around the world. So I think that's pretty interesting and exciting times for our industry.
I think you are very right about that. As we saw in 2023, artificial intelligence was reshaping industries globally. In your view, Luis, what are the most significant impacts that AI will do in the telecommunications industry today, and how telecom operators should be harnessing AI to enhance its services and operations?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So I do have a strong opinion about this. First of all, I think artificial intelligence, and more importantly, the generative AI, which is the what we call now Chat GPT, based on large language models, is able to teach, uh, you know, a platform to understand certain information. Okay, and the most prominent one is Chat GPT, right? It went from 100 million subscribers, users in 2 months. It's like ridiculous. It's like exponential growth. And what we are seeing is that that application or that concept of that platform, LLMs, is going to be utilized across different types of companies, okay, in industries, right? And for us, the telecom industry, we're the movers of massive data, okay? We're the
Yeah.
movers of information, right? And I think we are also going through our own transformation as an industry, right? We are, as I mentioned, 5G, we have the promise of opening up our network. Traditionally, when I got into the telecom industry, everything was hardened. You had to have limited, everything's point to point, everything was very well defined. Now we're moving with the advent of like SD-WAN and cloud services, we started moving everything to control to the enterprise. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue. And more importantly, I think artificial intelligence will help it. It will help it in our industry from an operational perspective. I think in the short term, one of the key areas that it can help a lot with is with security. It
Yeah.
can take in a lot of information, telemetry data, visual data, and be able to take action, right? Or at least be able to give information to somebody at a knock who's going to be able to do the action, okay? And over time, as we build more confidence in that platform, we'll have the systems themselves correct itself, mitigate against the exposures and stuff. So I think it's very promising, just like any other industry. And then secondly, I think it's going to drive more data. It's going to
Yeah.
drive more need for communication. That's the positive side. The downside is that it needs a lot of energy. So as an
True.
industry, we're going to have to invest a lot more on how to cool things. Those NVIDIA chips are very useful, but they
Yeah.
require a lot of they get hot, so they got to be cooled down. So in our data center capacity of what we used to build data centers for is going to change drastically. So
I love
that's a
this
lot of
because
positives.
yeah, and you gave us three areas, right? One is kind of like a disruption in the NOC, in the Network Operations Center, for the type of work that people are doing. In my days, I remember that to find the problem when NOC will call and say and find out, like, please find the problem. And with technology such as AI, I guess this is going to be great, right? The other thing is the amount of data that is passing through our networks, and then the increase of capacity. And the third, the downfall, which is on the sustainability. So if we think ahead, let's say in 2025, which is already next year, quantum computing is poised to reach this new milestone. What implications do you foresee for our telecom industry as quantum technology matures, particularly in that point that you mentioned, which is the security and data processing capabilities?
Yeah, I think quantum computing is a different derivative from artificial intelligence because it
Yeah.
uses a different way of it uses quantum computing capabilities, right? Which is different from the way we compute today on CPU and GPUs. And I'm not going to get into technical aspects of it, but so I think quantum computing also has a challenge of distance, okay, because of the power that it's required. There's some tests that are gone, especially in Europe, where they've gone out and started looking at this, pushing information. But I think it will have a value in the future, not necessarily in 2025 or 2026, maybe 2030 or something, because quantum computing solves a different problem. But I think the artificial intelligence is a short-term application that's going to be deployed, and it's going to have a lasting impact on our industry. While the issue of computing itself is going to be a challenge. I think there's the way quantum computing works, and the computing of that information that is generated out of artificial intelligence or an IoT device or stuff like that is going to take some time to be able to use quantum computing. So I think there are different paths, but once again, it's going to have a positive impact in our industry.
And I see that we will see this also in the expansion of the services of, let's say, data centers, with the integration of the telecom networks into, let's say, these cloud services are becoming more crucial. So I would love your input in what role data centers and cloud computing will evolve in this coming year. Is like, short term, 2025. What strategic moves of telecom operators should be doing already that maybe they're not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're in the cloud computing business or data center business, you're thinking about increasing the energy power into a data center or into a cloud infrastructure. The reality is that, I was just in Asia back in November of last year, and I was meeting with some investors. And one of the discussion was talking about a project that's taking place in Malaysia. Okay, Malaysia. You think of a country of the size of Malaysia, and they're actually looking to generate companies are looking to build data centers that require more electricity, more power than the whole country. Okay, that's a big problem to solve. Okay, and you have to find a different way to do it. So I think for us in our industry, we're challenged not only with being able to bring energy into a data center to be able to support the level of computing that's going to be needed. At the same time, bring other environmental factors into it, like cooling and everything else. I think these are, very big discussions that are taking place. And, whenever I attend a conference or whenever I meet with clients or customers, these are the discussions we have. Okay. And that's exciting because these are things that are being in somebody's R&D center and somebody's labs are being tested with the next generation of technology that will be deployed to be able to support, continued support, data centers and cloud centers and stuff. And especially because they're going to be driven by a lot of, what I consider AI type of computing, which is really going to put a lot of strain on the existing infrastructure today.
I believe that 2030 will be a decade of transformation. It seems that by 2030, the Internet of Things landscape is expected to profoundly be transformed by all these advanced wireless technologies. What is your vision about these technologies that will shape the industry? What opportunities do they represent for operators that are seeing their revenues declining?
Yeah, I think you're bringing up the IoT is like a big part of the future of telecom. Okay,
Yeah.
For a couple of things that are going on with IoT. The first one is that we've been doing IoT for a while, but the problem is that the wireless providers themselves have deployed it, but they're separate networks. So now you're starting to see these bonded SIM applications where it can pick which wireless provider is best. Okay, so the IoT device now has value to being up and running all the time. Right. The second thing you're starting to see with IoT information is that it actually produces a lot of information. Okay, some of it useful, some of it maybe not as useful. Okay, but you have to then take that and put it into a computing center where actually that information will then be used to be able to compute and bring information valuable back to the enterprise. Okay, and to me, that's also the future of telecom. We're good at managing things. Okay, we're good at like managing devices and everything else. So what we're doing is going away from the CPE equipment that we had inside the enterprise where we would manage. Now we're going out further, extending ourselves further, and now being able to manage devices, regardless of their, like a cell phone or anything else like that. That now you're going to be able to devise sensors and other things. So endpoint management is part of the managed services of the future of telecoms. And that's going to be a very growth factor for our industry. What do they estimate? 50 billion devices. I forget how many zettabytes of traffic that IoT devices will produce. And it needs to go someplace. It needs to be computed. It needs to be have value back to the enterprise, and then may even tie into an LLM platform where it actually then takes action to do something. So all those components are slowly starting to merge on their own and then integrated together is the future of telecom.
This is very interesting because you see, 2030, and which is only what, like 6 years from now, and as this that it can happen in the future of telecom, and then as we move forward to a more connected and digitalized world, when we think about the traditional services, just like voice and even SMS, do you think that they will continue to remain relevant in 2030? And if that is the case, in what capacity and how will they be, adapted?
Yeah. If you think about what is the most important, fastest growing data segment in today's world based on Cisco's global Cisco vision analysis, it's machine to machine communication. Okay. SMS is part machine to machine. There may be a human on the other end of it. Okay. But machines are talking to each other and they're going to continue to talk to each other. I think that's going to exponentially grow. Okay. Because you're going to have a distributed world of information. Cloud computing is that, right? Okay. But now you're talking about private data centers speaking to cloud infrastructure, maybe a public cloud infrastructure versus and talking to a private cloud infrastructure, maybe to an edge location. And they're going to be talking and communicating among themselves. So it's similar to the concept of the routers that we did, years ago when we were building the internet, right? But at a higher level, and the communications are going to be at the machine level. They're going to be, and I think that's going to create an explosion of further communications, and I think that's where we're headed. And we already talked about the impact of IoT. We've already talked about the impact of artificial intelligence through things like generative AI. I mean, all those things will continue to add more and more power to these computers or servers that are going to be in the middle of communicating. So to go back to your specific answer, I think voice communications will continue because we're talk. We're humans. Okay, I hope we don't get to a point that we no longer talking. Maybe, I don't know. But the second part of it is on SMS and technologies like that. It's just going to change a little bit, but it's going to continue to happen. ATP technology applications to a platform technology is completely, still in an early stages of evolving and stuff. So this whole network is going to take on these capabilities.
Listen, it's very interesting because I am preparing a paper about if voice has a future or not, right? Since I remember, since I've been in this industry a long time, and we're not going to say numbers because people will start believing that we've been in telecom industry since we were in kindergarten. So taking the numbers aside, people have been telling me, oh, the voice industry is gone, is down. And I hear you telling me right now that probably the future of the telecommunications industry is a machine-to-machine communications. Do you believe, that the revenues streams for telecom operators are just going down? They've disappeared, for instance, on the voice side. How do you see the role of telecom operators evolving? What strategies that can be innovative are necessary for their survival? Let's going to think 2040. Let's going to think already, 16 years from now, how this is going to change and how the growth of innovative systems are going to transform this digital ecosystem.
Yeah. So first of all, let me try to address that question on a couple of different fronts. First of all, I think there's a change in the players. Okay. Before, we used to all be telecom companies, communication service provider, wherever we wanted to be called, and our goal was to get geographic reach. Okay, build capillarity of a network to reach these locations to bring them together. Okay, companies like ours, we're part of a very large organization, and where we have a huge network inside of China. But about 5 years ago, we looked at our business and we said, the future is not in building network and laying fiber or anything else. We never did any of that, but what we did do is build aggregation points. But the future, we said, is not to continue to provide, end-to-end services like what we've done. Is to build the cloud infrastructure through like SD-WAN or our own cloud services, and then focus on the overlay operations. Let somebody else build the underlay. Okay, we'll buy from them. Okay, we'll continue to build on that infrastructure. Okay, and our goal is to be able to help customers run their applications. Okay, and that also now moves towards managed services, right? Which we've always historically done, but we've done it for a very small segment. Remember, I told you, we used to do it for CPE equipment that was inside the company, right? Now it's at the end. So we're going to be managing devices and things and applications that are outside of the enterprise. Okay, and they may be utilizing, the 5G network that we built, or maybe we will build them a private 5G network that they can utilize. So, and that will have their own network. So I think all those things is a transformation of our industry. Okay, because before we used to think about connecting one location to another location. That's gone, right? We just need to connect them to get them onto something, and then let the applications run themselves. And also, there's a couple initiatives, one from an MEF forum and a TM forum in Europe. MEF is in the US. Both of them are providing, guidelines and recommendations as to how to open up your network. Because remember, we are a business where everything has to be secured, and our customers want it that way, right? They want everything to be locked down, secured, and managed, and they want to hold us responsible if anything goes wrong, okay? But now, because companies are moving towards being an overlay or an underlay, okay, now you have to have information, be able to order and provision services really quick, okay? And, I would give a compliment to the OTTs. They've demanded this for some time, right? So now that we're moving in that direction, I think we're going to see a continuation of of our industry splitting up in two different categories. And then you're also going to see the running of these applications are going to be more important and more valuable to an enterprise. So they're going to buy from carriers, continue to buy from carriers. And the companies that can evolve to be able to adopt and provide these kind of infrastructure. I'm not saying it's there today, but that's where we're going. And that's how they're going to buy. They're going to buy when they need it, what's available to them. They're not going to want to be able to have to order from 5 different providers to build their global network. They're going to want you to get onto this cloud platform that maybe is driven by our, AI, and it's actually being able to provision services as they need it and computing power. So I think that's where we're headed. There's still a lot of things to be put together, but there's a lot of promise in the components that we have available today that in the future, that's where we're going to be.
I like that future, Luis. I really like that future, because if we think now ahead, let's say that for 2050, these technologies that we're speaking about today, which is 5G, which is kind of like people are already talking 6G, it's going to be a 10G, AI, even quantum computing. If we think about 2050, what is yet to be invented that could revolutionize the telecom industry?
I think, I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity and to continue to evolve the systems and the capabilities to give more power to the enterprise themselves or the customer themselves. Okay, I think, and do it in a way that's secure and it's manageable and it can actually be measured. Okay, I think that's where we're going to see. Nobody talks about websites anymore. But back in when I was in the late '90s, when I worked for an American ISP that went public and everything else like that, and it was like we got to help build websites. Okay, but nobody cares about that. That's like an understood thing component to it. Right? We saw the emergence of cloud. Okay, everything's been there. Everybody's on the cloud. Everybody has some components on the cloud, some computing on the cloud. But now you're starting to see hey, we need to put some of this at the edge. What is an edge, right? So maybe it's small cloud, maybe the smaller location, okay? So we're going to continue as we develop more software, more capabilities, and architecture to be able to secure it, to open up and further make it more transparent. So the customers will just get on. And today I want to be able to communicate to, let's say Singapore. Okay, well, I'm going to be able to do that and procure capacity on, the network itself, the global operators, and be able to take that traffic and set up a session and be able to do so and do it in a way that it's actually secured, it's sliced off for me. I may do it through, through 5G. I may, because I'm running an application that I want to do, but that's the future of our industry. It's going to take time and it's going to take some patience to build it. And people need to understand it a little bit more. And we're still missing some of the software components to enable this and to be able to secure it and make it proper.
We're not even speaking about Web 3.0. Do you think that actually is going to make any difference at all?
I think Web 3.0 is definitely going to happen. Okay. And I think it's going to be more short term than we think. For right now, the big concept that I see that's being adopted across our industry for our customers, Industry 4.0, right? So people are trying to use communication platforms with the use of technology to be able to conduct business, okay, manufacturing and everything else. I think that's what you're starting to see, and that's more at an enterprise level. But between the locations, okay, one, let's say you have a manufacturing center in Ohio and another one in someplace in Europe, okay, those communications and being able to share that information, make it more, keep the world running on a 24/7 basis. I think that's where we're going to see, like Industry 4.0 emerge and really utilize the technologies that we're talking about today. I think that's where we're seeing, the future of telecom itself and being able to build that infrastructure for it.
I love it. I love it. Beautiful. So we are in this final stretch of our podcast. And since we are already thinking 2050, I want you to think that it's already, yes, today it's 2050, and we will ask you some of these questions. And let's try to answer in one word, okay? Whatever comes to your mind, just go for it. Ready for the challenge?
I hope so. Let's do it.
Okay, let's gonna do this. 2050. Has quantum computing replaced traditional data centers? Yes or no?
No, not yet.
Yes. Okay. One word to describe AI's role in everyday life by 2050.
Smart.
I like that. Good. Okay. So, what is the primary revenue source for telecom operators in 2050?
Managing devices.
Very good. I'm keeping this. The M2M. I love this. I love this. Okay. Are telecom networks globally net zero by 2050? Yes or no?
I hope so. I know that's more than one word.
Thinking?
I think we have to, because we can't.
We have to.
The biggest challenge our industry is, if you ask me the question, what's going to hold us back, is going to be the lack of energy. Okay, yeah. So we need to solve that problem, and we need to, comply with what the world needs to. We just can't consume all the power that the world needs for other things.
I agree with you. So, okay, 2050, do you think digital divide has been completely eradicated? Everybody has access to everything.
I mean, in order to have a harmonious world, yes. But I think it has a strong possibility. I really do believe that, especially in my capacity, I meet with heads of states who tell me, hey, we want to bring this to our country. We need this, because we see that, that does a transformation value to our industry, to our country. So they need it. So I think for the most part, it will have been, if not 100%, because sometimes it's hard to solve 100%. But for the most part, it will be resolved.
Good. Well, it's a lot of speculation with this question about interplanetary communication. Do you think will be in the standard service?
I think that would be cool. I think in 2050, you know, I I think we're going to have different challenges, and the limitation of resources in the world that we know today, may become more prominent. Okay, but I think so. Other planets may be able to solve some of those limitations that we have, and the promise of communication between them, that would be really important. So I think that you will see, planets communicating between planets. How much, I don't know, but I can tell you that we're going to be starting that. You're starting to see some of that now. With all the different types of initiatives being pursued.
And what about personal devices? Do you think they will still exist, or maybe technology has become fully integrated in our body?
I mean, neuroscience using of technology to solve speech impediments, solve visual limitations and stuff like that. I think that's really in the forefront of happening in the next 5 years. Okay, now are we like motivated enough to put all these devices in our bodies, not necessarily to solve a limitation we may have, but to be able to just to communicate? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we spend a lot of time on videos and short videos that we create, and people like it. But I think it has a potential to have more lasting impact. I just don't think, although we do like the visual aspects of it, so we can actually have a way of looking at a device, without having it in front of us, and be able to see it through, hologram or something. That would be really cool. But I think it's in the early stages, and I think some version of it will exist. I don't know. Maybe we put on headphones or earbuds, and all of a sudden it creates, holograms in front of us that we can talk to and communicate with.
I'm thinking about this, 30 years ago, voice over IP was kind of like the innovation technology in many of the companies that allowed to do lots in the wholesale area for voice. Do you think that by 2050, 25 years from now, the voice wholesale business is going to be over finally? I keep hearing this, but do you think that it finally will be over?
Making the money? No, I don't. I think it'll be lumped in with data, right? Because that's what voice has become, right? VoIP services is a big component of the. I think you still have some countries where the adoption of new technologies hasn't emerged, but as they adopt new technology and get better penetration and stronger internet and things, I think it'll just become voice, move over to data type of communication. And I think that's where it's going to ultimately end up. I think we're still going to, pay for premium voice, so we can make sure we have good communication. I think that'll never necessarily go away. But it's going to be part of something else that we're going to add more value, and we're going to give it to you maybe for free, and you'll have access to be able to do things and stuff.
I see online. I see this because I see that, voice in your terms, if I remember, for many companies, it's not even that much of a profit area these days. It's a lot of cash revenue because still good in cash, not necessarily margin. So I am hoping that in less than 5 years, not wait 25, we can find out the way to make it profitable again. I like the areas where you're mentioning that can be of interest.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be part of the data stream of, and then we'll charge for that, and it will be multiple levels of type of voice that quality you will have. But it's voices, moments like this, right? We're recording online right now. We're talking this stuff. That's a very valuable tool. For people like you and I who travel a lot, maybe we don't like it, but maybe the future generations, they want to be at home. They want to be, able to walk.
They don't want to travel. You never know.
They travel. Yeah. travel for work. They want to be able to do these kind of moments like this. So
Yeah, they might want to travel just for fun, not for conferences.
yeah.
Okay, last questions about this one. 2050, you were thinking back and thinking about 2024. What was the single biggest innovation in telecom that was invented in 2024?
In 2024, invented. I think
Or
most
appearing, distributed. I don't know. What do you think?
I think the utilization of finally utilizing edge computing in 2024 in a way that maybe we don't use like large language models, we use small language models. You know, the concept of containers to be able to put all the processing power that you need on a cloud center today exists. Okay, there's a different version of that where you can actually deploy that on edge on edge computing centers. Okay, maybe at the cell tower level. Okay, I think that is where we're going to see tests that are rolling out this year. And you're going to start seeing that being adopted on a regular basis. And then we look back 25 years, we're going to sit there and go, oh, wow, that's when it sort of started happening. I could be off by a year, but I think it's coming. I think there's enough projects and enough announcements by a lot of the vendors that are involved in this and to be able to take advantage of it. Plus, you also have things like, AI that's actually going to drive a lot of the communication requirements. So you want to be able to distribute it out and let those things happen naturally. And I think that's coming. I think that's part of that's what we're building towards.
This has been fantastic, Luis. Super, super insightful. So to close our podcast and with these projections and thoughts into the future, I would love to ask your take on what to tell to the aspiring technology leaders and startups that they are looking at and watching today. How do they do to position themselves not only to adapt, but to lead in this ever-evolving telecommunication landscape? What advice do you have for them?
I think one of the most important things people have to think about is like, why are you building something? Right? And for us, as I mentioned, about 5 years ago, we said, hey, we can continue to build the way we've been building, but let's not focus on their underlay, especially outside of China. Right? So let's just focus on their overlay. Okay. And let's understand what our customers want. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I was on a conference call with a customer in Brazil who wants us to procure for them and help them manage mechanical arm for car manufacturing. Okay. That conversation never happened 5 years ago. Right? Nobody would ever think of this. But that's where the future is going, right? So you have to build an infrastructure or a platform to allow a lot of different things come on your platform. Okay, and that will allow you to be able to add value to your customers because those are the problems they're having to solve, right? And those are the problems that they need assistance with. Right? And we're good at moving information, okay, and we're good at managing things, so we'll be able to continue to evolve our own business, our own industry to support those things in the future.
I love this. I guess that we have to become more customer-centric focused in order to survive this environment. Thank you, Luis. Has been an amazing trip to the future of the telecom today here with you. Thank you for being part of our Tech Foresighters. I appreciate so much that you have come to us.
Diana, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for having me today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, and thank you, our audience that are listening via Spotify or watching us on YouTube, LinkedIn, or any of the social platforms. Thank you for joining us today in the Tech Foresight podcast. This is Diana Daniels signing off, but not saying goodbye because the exploration into the future of business and technology is a continuous journey, and your involvement is key. Subscribe to stay updated, share your thoughts, let us make each other episodes and step towards a more innovative tomorrow. Keep your minds open, keep your ideas flowing, and always stay foresighted. See you soon.